127 seconds. 2 minutes and 7 seconds. Congressman Byron Donalds stood up, held a NIH Office of Inspector General budget report above his head, and asked the question that would silence the entire chamber. Mr. Kennedy, this report shows $4.2 billion allocated from the NIH research funding pool in fiscal year 2025. The grants were approved, the institutions were notified, the work orders were issued, but the research was never conducted. The labs never received the money. The scientists never got paid. So I have one very simple question. Where is $4.2 billion? RFK Jr.'s face went completely still. Not surprised, not defensive. Still. Like someone who had been waiting for this question for months and still had no answer ready. His lead counsel reached across the table. Too late. The IG report was already on every screen in the room. And Byron Donalds, former banker, financial crimes specialist, the man who spent years untangling exactly this kind of paper trail, had not even opened the second folder yet. If you are new to this channel, subscribe right now. Because what you are about to witness is a former banker methodically dismantling the largest unexplained budget disappearance in NIH history. House Oversight Committee, Room 2154. Thursday morning, 10:17 a.m. Eastern. The hearing was listed as oversight of HHS research funding allocation. Routine. That word keeps appearing on these hearing titles. It is never routine. Donalds arrived carrying a single black binder. No briefcase, no team of aides. Just the binder and a yellow legal pad with 4 lines of handwritten notes. RFK Jr. walked in looking relaxed, almost cheerful. He had his legal team. We 2 senior HHS advisors and a stack of prepared talking points about research priorities, budget reallocation, and administrative reform. He had done dozens of these hearings. He knew how they worked. He had not prepared for Byron Donalds. The first 40 minutes were exactly what Kennedy expected. Questions about vaccine policy. Questions about fluoride. Questions about staffing changes. Kennedy gave his answers smoothly, confidently. He leaned forward. He made eye contact. He smiled. He was comfortable. Then Donalds took the microphone, and the room shifted. Mr. Kennedy. Donalds' voice was quiet, precise. The voice of someone who has read every page of a document before asking a single question about it. I want to talk about money. Specifically, I want to talk about $4.2 billion that the NIH approved for distribution in fiscal year 2025, but that never reached the researchers it was designated for. He opened the binder. This is a NIH Inspector General audit completed 6 weeks ago, classified as law enforcement sensitive until a federal judge ordered its release to Congress 4 days ago. He set it on the table. According to this audit, in the first quarter of fiscal year 2025, the NIH approved 1,847 research grants totaling $4.2 billion. The approval letters went out. The institutions signed the agreements. The federal grant management system marked every single one of these grants as funded. He looked up, but the money never moved. A murmur started in the gallery. Donalds did not pause. The IG sent auditors to 200 of those institutions. Universities, research hospitals, independent labs. In every single case, the institutions confirmed the same thing. They received the approval letter. They received the grant agreement. They hired staff in anticipation of the funding, and then the money never arrived. He pulled out the second document. This is a summary of 47 institution statements collected by the IG. I am going to read you 3 of them. Johns Hopkins University. Quote, "We received grant approval for $180 million in neuroscience research. We signed all agreements. We hired 12 researchers. The funding was never transferred." University of Michigan. Quote, "Our oncology department was approved for $94 million. Agreement signed. Lab space prepared. $0 received." MD Anderson Cancer Center. Quote, $210 million approved for clinical trials. Patients enrolled. Staff hired. Get no funds transferred. He set the paper down. $4.2 billion. Approved. Documented. Never delivered. Mr. Kennedy, where is the money? RFK Jr. leaned forward. Congressman, the NIH budget reallocation process involves complex administrative restructuring. When we came into office, we found significant inefficiencies in how research dollars were being directed. We implemented a review process to ensure funding aligned with scientific priorities. I am going to stop you there. Donalds did not raise his voice. Because I specifically asked where the money is. Not why it was reviewed. Not about your priorities. About $4.2 billion that was approved, documented, and never delivered. He pulled out the third document. So let me help you. Because I used to work in finance. I know how money moves through systems. And when money is approved but not delivered, it does not disappear. It sits somewhere. It has to. He opened the page. The IG traced those funds. After approval, the $4.2 billion remained in an NIH internal holding account designated as Administrative Review Reserve. That account is not subject to standard congressional reporting. It does not appear in quarterly budget disclosures. It is, for all practical purposes, invisible to oversight. He looked at Kennedy. $4.2 billion parked in an account that Congress cannot see. He paused. And here is where it gets interesting. Now, I need to stop for a second. If you believe $4.2 billion in medical research money deserves an explanation, hype this video right now. The hype button is right next to like. You can hype 3 times a day for free. And we have 7 days to get this into the top 100 most hyped videos on YouTube. Every single hype counts. Do it now. Then keep watching, because what Donalds shows next proves someone was making withdrawals from that account. He pulled out the 4th document. Mr. Kennedy, the IG, did not stop at finding the account. They traced the transactions inside it. Between January and September of this year, the Administrative Review Reserve received $4.2 billion. During that same period, it made 23 outgoing transfers. He opened the page. Not to universities, not to research hospitals, not to any of the 1,847 institutions that were approved for grants. He let that sit. The 23 transfers went to 6 entities. He read from the document. 3 consulting groups registered in Delaware. 1 policy institute registered in Virginia. Or 1 private foundation registered in Washington, D.C., and 1 entity registered in the Cayman Islands. The room went silent. Not a murmur. Complete silence. The kind that happens when 60 people simultaneously understand something they wish they did not. He set the paper down. $4.2 billion meant for cancer research, neurological studies, and clinical trials. Redirected to consulting groups and a Cayman Islands entity, while scientists sat in empty labs waiting for funding that never came, while patients enrolled in clinical trials that never started, while institutions that hired researchers had to let them go. He looked at Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy, who authorized these transfers? RFK Jr.'s attorney interjected immediately. Mr. Chairman, questions about specific internal financial transactions require a level of technical context that the transfers are documented. Donalds did not look at the attorney. They are in the IG report produced by Mr. Kennedy's own department. There is no technical context required. The money went somewhere. I am asking where. He pulled out the 5th document. And I will tell you what makes this particularly interesting. The authorization form for the Administrative Review Reserve transfers requires 2 signatures, the NIH Director and the HHS Secretary. He held it up. This is the authorization form for the 23 transfers, signed by the acting NIH Director on March 4th, and signed by you, Mr. Kennedy, on March 6th. He set it down. Your signature moved $4.2 billion away from approved research grants. Your signature sent it to consulting groups and a Cayman Islands account. And now I am asking you, under oath, to explain who received that money and why. RFK Jr. opened his mouth. Nothing came out. His lead attorney leaned in, whispered something urgent. Kennedy shook his head slightly. His second advisor placed a hand on the table as if steadying something that was about to fall. And that is when the silence started. Donalds pulled out his phone, opened the stopwatch, held it up so the entire room could see. Mr. Kennedy, I am going to time this, because the American people deserve to know how long you are willing to sit here without explaining what happened to $4.2 billion in medical research funding. He pressed start. 10 seconds. Kennedy's hands flat on the table. Eyes steady, but still. 20 seconds. Oh, his lead attorney writing something, crossing it out, writing again. 30 seconds. A Democrat from California leaned into his microphone. Mr. Kennedy, cancer patients were enrolled in trials that never happened because this money didn't arrive. Please answer the question. Kennedy said nothing. 40 seconds. Donald stood up, still holding the stopwatch. Mr. Kennedy, I spent years in finance. I have seen budget transfers. I have seen fund reallocation. I know what legitimate administrative restructuring looks like. And I know what it looks like when someone moves $4.2 billion somewhere they do not want found. 50 seconds. What it looks like is exactly this. 60 seconds. 1 full minute. The committee chairman spoke. Mr. Kennedy, you are under oath. You signed the authorization. You will answer the question. 70 seconds. And Kennedy's jaw moved. No sound. His second attorney stood. "Mr. Chairman, we request—" "Sit down." The chairman did not hesitate. "Your client signed the transfer. Your client will explain it." 80 seconds. Donalds walked closer to the witness table. Not aggressive, deliberate. "Mr. Kennedy, 12 researchers at Johns Hopkins were hired for positions that no longer exist because this money vanished. I want you to think about that while you sit there silent." 90 seconds. 1 minute 30. A Republican from Florida spoke quietly. "Bobby, if there is an explanation, now is the time to give it." Kennedy looked at him, said nothing. 100 seconds. Kennedy's hands pressed harder on the table. The knuckles, pale. 110 seconds. Donald stopped walking. "Mr. Kennedy, I am going to tell you what else the IG found. Because I did not stop at the transfers." He picked up the final document. "The Cayman Islands entity that received funds from your Administrative Review Reserve. I had it traced. It was incorporated on February 19th of this year, 12 days before the NIH approval letters went out, 15 days before your authorization signature, 120 seconds, 2 full minutes. The entity has no employees, no physical address, no stated purpose. Its registered agent manages 11,000 other shell companies at the same address in Georgetown, Grand Cayman." Kennedy's face had gone gray. "And the beneficial ownership structure, the actual person or persons who control this entity, is protected under Cayman Islands financial secrecy law, 125, 126, 127. Donalds pressed stop. He held up the phone. 2 minutes and 7 seconds. He turned to the committee. "Mr. Chairman, the witness has refused to answer. I move to enter the complete NIH Inspector General audit into the congressional record. All 612 pages, every transfer, every account number, every authorization signature. I further move to refer this matter to the Department of Justice for criminal investigation under Title 18, Section 666, theft or misappropriation of federal program funds, and Title 18, Section 1956, money laundering." Both motions were seconded. Both passed. Donalds gathered his documents. "Mr. Kennedy, 127 seconds. That is how long you sat here protecting whoever received $4.2 billion that was supposed to fund cancer research, neurological studies, and clinical trials." He held up the authorization form. "Your signature is on this document. The transfers happened. The shell company exists. The researchers lost their jobs. The patients lost their trials. And you sat here silent for 2 minutes and 7 seconds rather than explain any of it." He looked directly at Kennedy. "But here's what you did not account for. IG audits create paper trails. Transfer records exist. Shell companies can be traced. And the 12 people at Johns Hopkins who were hired and then let go because this money never arrived, the FBI is going to want to talk to all of them." He paused. 127 seconds of silence. "That is an answer. Just not the one the American people deserved." The hearing was adjourned immediately. Kennedy was surrounded by attorneys before he reached the door. Cameras converged. Journalists shouted questions down the hallway. Security formed a barrier. It did not matter. Byron Donalds had just entered into the congressional record. NIH authorization documents, transfer records, shell company and corporation filings, and an HHS Secretary's signature on every page. $4.2 billion meant for medical research. Redirected, documented, referred to the Department of Justice, and 127 seconds of silence where Robert F. Kennedy Jr. could have explained it, and chose not to. Subscribe to this channel right now because tomorrow we release the names of all 6 entities that received transfers from the Administrative Review Reserve. The consulting groups, the Policy Institute, the private foundation, all public record as of today. Share this video. Researchers lost their jobs. Patients lost their trials. And $4.2 billion disappeared while a Senate-confirmed cabinet secretary sat silent for 2 minutes and 7 seconds. 127 seconds. Every one of them documented, every dollar traceable. The truth is coming out one transfer record at a time.